This podcast is brought to you by Customplan Financial Advisors, Inc., an independent insurance managing general agency in Canada. Financialpodcast.ca was developed with one goal in mind: to educate Canadians on important topics that affect their financial well-being and make it readily available to all. We welcome you to plug in and learn with us. If you have questions, please email us at contact@financialpodcast.ca.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to Financial Podcast. I'm your host, Darlene, and today we've got part 2 of our conversation with Dave Patriarche, author of Selling Benefits. Welcome back to the show, Dave.
Thank you, and nice to be back.
Well, can you give us a recap of who you, Dave Patriarche, is?
Yep, I'm an employee benefits specialist. Mainstay Insurance Brokerage is my company. I've been doing it for just over 25 years now, and specialize in nothing but employee benefits for small and mid-sized businesses, mainly Ontario, GTA, Greater Toronto Area focused. I also run CGIB, Canadian Group Insurance Brokers, which is an association dedicated to educating advisors in our space. And I also do work as an expert witness with pharmaceutical company ad boards and all sorts of other things around the industry. And I'm also a sailor part-time. Or maybe that's full-time and the insurance is part-time. I'm not sure which way it works sometimes. In the summer, it's full-time. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed on your LinkedIn profile, you've got sailor listed first. So
Yeah, it's a little different. Yeah. If somebody asks you what you do for a living, you go, I'm a sailor who sells group insurance, and it doesn't make them run away screaming right away. So it makes them always ask, what's that? What's that first thing you said? You're a sailor?
what?
Yeah. It all works. Yeah.
All right, for those that didn't catch the first part of this conversation, we talked about a great many things, from how to talk to a prospect about the advantages of a group benefits plan, to the importance of plan administration liability coverage, and why sometimes walking away is in everyone's best interest. But your best bet is to go listen to that podcast to get all of that great information directly from Dave. So let's dive right in where we left off for last week's podcast. So you've talked a little bit about this already, but you created Canadian Group Insurance Brokers, CGIB, in order to educate and share experiences. So how has sharing these experiences helped you in your group benefits business?
Well, it's the best kept secret around. If you mentor or share or educate other people, you get better at a much faster rate than you could without doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a little bit selfish, and I'm okay with that. But I mean, in the effort to help other people get better, what happens is other people bring cases and challenges and questions to you that you might never see.
Right.
So I kind of laugh and say, amongst CGIB members, we have probably 5,000 years of experience. And I may not see a disability claim every single day. I mean, we sure don't. We don't have that many at all, thankfully. But I get to the shared experiences of all these other advisors and all of their clients. So it actually comes back. And every time you stand up on a stage or get in front of somebody and want to speak, you want to make sure what you're saying is right. So you tend to do a lot more fact finding and a lot more background checking and everything before you publicly say something.
Right.
And I mean, when I say public, it could just be like with a mentee, mentor, aspirant kind of relationship where you're just kind of going, I want to make sure you understand properly. But when you get up on a big stage and you got 100 or 1,000 people in the audience, you don't want to screw up. So you end up researching like crazy to make sure you can back up everything you say with the proper, facts or whatever. So it does make you learn really fast.
Yeah, and in the last in our last conversation in that podcast, we talked a little bit too about the importance of sharing information and educating clients and how it can be a benefit to everyone. And this really just seems to me like it's a continuation of that.
It is. If you're not learning, you're dying. Like, I mean, the world is evolving. I mean, this year, and we're just speaking at lunchtime with my wife, we were saying basically COVID took 10 years and put it in one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we advanced 10 years in everything from RNA vaccine research to getting people out of the office and working from home.
Yeah.
Most companies would not be where they are today had it not been for COVID. So we've adapted, we've improvised, we've overcome all these challenges and everything. And continued learning allows you to do that and better and more effectively than the average person. So just keep on learning, keep on learning.
That's right. You know, being a continuous learner never hurt anyone.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you mentioned this just now too, but you strongly encourage finding a mentor. And it seems to me that not many in the business actually do, or maybe that's just my perception. I'm not really sure, but what would be the advantage of having a mentor and or being a mentor?
Yeah, and I would say be both. Even if you're newer to the business, you have skill sets that you can share. I think, like I said, the biggest benefit, I guess, is that you raise your education at a rate faster than what you share. And I mean, you don't even realize it, but you are constantly doing it. So, you're as a mentor, you're learning more, you're sharing more. You've got other people that are drawing out the questions from you that you maybe didn't think about.
Yep.
We had a CGIB chat the other day, and somebody brought out a scenario, and I'm like, after 25 years in the business, I've never heard this before. Like, how did I miss this? And we worked together to figure out kind of what the resolution was for the situation. But yeah, I think having somebody you can go to is huge. Most people in our industry don't want to help each other. It's very adversarial. It's very cutthroat, and everybody feels like there's just not enough business to go around. And in group insurance, that's absolutely not the case. 50% of small business don't have benefit plans at all. So there's like lots of business out there. You just kind of got to get out and sell it. So when you get to mentoring, I mean, one, having that network of people to reach out to. I never had one formal mentor. I always had kind of like lots of mini mentors and people I could go to. And some of them are the very, very best in the business. And all of them are people that I aspire to do business like or learn from because of their style or whatever. So if you are in group benefits or financial planning or living benefits, whatever it is, pick that person who you go, I want to learn to be like this person. I want to be better than this person one day, or I want to fill the spot of them as an industry leader or subject matter expert when they leave. Then maybe I'll aspire to that role down the road. And the best of the best always are willing to share. It's really amazing. So one name I'll just drop is like Lawrence Geller. Lawrence Geller is kind of an icon in our industry that sells mainly disability and living benefits to logical people, lawyers, doctors, engineers, kind of his marketplace. And that's all he does. He refers off stuff to other people for all the other stuff. And he's just the guy, the go-to guy. And anybody can call up Lawrence with a disability question and he will try and help out. And he runs a bulletin board or not a bulletin board anymore, a panel called foradvisorsonly.com, where people can share information, answer questions and everything. And it's open to anybody in the industry. So I think those type of people are like the great mentors. And Lawrence has been one. He's taught me so much over the years. It's amazing. So.
Well, both my husband and I, we read a lot of personal growth books. And one of the common themes amongst them is sharing information, helping other people achieve what they want, helps you get what you want, that sort of logic. And I've always found that people that are top of their profession are the ones that are most willing to share. So
yeah, if somebody says, I don't want to be your mentor, I would never do something like that, you're probably picking the wrong person.
I can't I can't imagine how somebody would not want to be a mentor. I mean, what a compliment.
Oh, it is
your skills.
Yeah. Somebody sees you as the valuable person they want to learn to, go with it. The other thing, there's a bunch of side effects to mentoring that people I don't think realize, but if you've got, especially, so this is kind of general and it doesn't have to be this way, but generally we think of mentors as a junior person and the mentor is a senior person helping that aspirant or mentee. If you're working with that person and helping make them better, you might actually be making the person who is your succession plan. You might be helping the person who ends up being the guy who buys your business, or the person who buys your business. Like there's so many benefits to kind of raising the bar for everybody.
Well, that,
and maybe a personal benefit to you somewhere down the road.
well, I can't see how it could hurt either, you know, and
Nope.
it is tough to sometimes find those mentors, but sometimes
Yes.
it just comes down to just asking, like saying,
Yeah.
hey, would you help me out here? You know, can I go to you for questions on
And,
one thing or another?
and before anyone asks, I don't mentor anymore. So I do indirectly through CGIB, but we have about 300 members. So I get questions every day from all these advisors across Canada. So I've kind of backed up from doing kind of one-on-one stuff and saying, if you think a mentor is great, be part of a mentoring association where you have hundreds of people that are willing to share their information with you. And we have like things like a Slack channel where people can go on and post questions, and you get advisors from across Canada sharing their 2 cents worth, sharing documents, templates, you know, everything. So it's, yeah, I mean, it just works.
It
Yeah.
really does. It really does on so many different levels. So you've learned a great deal by being curious and asking questions. And as you explain in your book, you were often surprised at the wrong information that was being passed around, not maliciously, but sometimes just misunderstood. So going to the source for facts can be time consuming for an advisor, but there is an advantage to it. And in your book, this is why I bring this up, you've got some great examples in your book about how assumptions have been made because not fully understanding the fact that was told to them. So there was a great story in your book on page 71 to 72. Can you share with us what some of those examples might be?
Yeah, sure. I think that one was talking about co-insurance and how you coordinate different plans.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a funny one because it's one of those things that's so basic that everybody you think would know. But I started surveying people years ago because I would ask a question and somebody would answer it wrong. And I go, oh, that one person didn't get it. But we changed it into kind of a survey when we do workshops and seminars. We give everybody a piece of paper and we say, here's a scenario. You have, say, a husband and a wife, both have benefit plans or 80% coverage. The husband will say has a claim for $100. So he puts it through his plan and $80 is paid and $20 is left over. It's then sent over to the second plan, the spousal plan, for consideration. And assuming it's eligible, what amount is paid? Is it 80% of the $20? Or is it 100% of the $20? Or how is that calculated? And the answer is 50% of the audience, no matter who the audience is. It doesn't matter whether it's advisors, employers, insurers, account reps, like it doesn't matter, 25 years in the business, 2 months in the business. It's 50-50 from every group. The response is wrong. And you just go, okay, this is not the end of the world. Like, I mean, it's not, if you do the math a little bit wrong, nobody's going to kill you for it. You're not going to lose a group over it. But the fact that we have somehow misinterpreted that is kind of mind blowing. And so that kind of started me asking the question of, well, how much more stuff have I been taught that may not be factual? And again, like you said, it's not malicious. It's just they learned it wrong. So they carry it on and carry it on, and carry it on. Hence, mentoring has its downsides, right? When you're taking the spoken word or the story of another, you're assuming that it's right. And that's where benefit mentoring and stuff helps, is that when you start to kind of go, okay, I got to make sure this is right, I'm going to go fact check before I share it, then you're more likely to find those mistakes and problems and errors along the way. But that one is big. Now there's actually tons like that. That's just kind of one example that you highlighted in the book that almost everybody can relate to. And funny enough, I've had lots of people that are not in the business directly. I've had human resource people and family members and stuff, and they'll drop me a note or send me a text going, hey, I got the question right. And I'm like, great, good for you. Like, it wasn't a test. There's no prize. I'm really sorry. But people are kind of happy when they get it right, knowing that half the industry gets it wrong.
Yeah, well, it was a big one, and it sounded like it came as quite a surprise.
It did. One of many. I mean,
yes.
we've had bigger ones. I mean, we found out that all the insurance companies in Canada were wrong, or not, sorry, not in Canada, in Ontario, were wrongly paying drug claims to the tune of $150 million a year that employers are paying that are really supposed to be paid for by the province. And no insurance company in Canada had found the mistake. but they've been doing it for 20 years. So some of these are not little. These are, over time, billion-dollar mistakes.
Yeah.
And why? And everyone just said, well, we thought that's how it worked. Didn't anyone ever ask the question? No. So my mantra now when I start seminars, workshops is say, be a doubter, don't be a believer. Just be a doubter and say, hey, that's great. When you say life insurance is a taxable benefit, give me the reference. Like, where would I find that in the tax code, or where would I find it on a CRA site? Or disability, like what's IT 428, that interpretation bulletin that explains disability and wage replacement plans. If you can point to it, then you're better off. You're better off when you try and explain it to your client. And if you're trying to explain something to your client about the taxability of disability benefits, and their accountant or lawyers in the room, or somebody else that's involved, then you can say, hey, here's what the reference is. Here's why I'm saying what I'm saying. And it gets everybody on the same page right away. You are treated as an expert, instantly when you know the background, not just, hey, Dave told me this is what it was, so I'm telling you. That's not
right.
helping you.
Yeah.
And that's the way most people go through life right now.
Well, they really do. And I think it's Buddha that says, question everything.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't hurt to question everything.
Not at all.
So in your book, you've got some great examples of making lasting change. And that was how different insurers treated those employees returning from maternity leave.
Yeah.
And so some insurers allowed the employees to pick up where they left off. Some had to start all over again. And there were, yet other scenarios. So what happened when you brought this awareness of the difference to the industry?
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought this was going to be one of those, and I've felt this several times, one of those aha moments where the industry goes, oh, shucks, we've been doing it wrong. Let's get it fixed, right? But instead, I found everybody kind of entrenched in how they do things. And they're just like, well, that's the way we've always done it. That's the right way. Everybody else is doing it wrong. And you just go, no. Like, there's some fundamental things here. And so we surveyed everybody first to find out where everybody kind of sat on the issue. And my thing was, I didn't think women on mat leave should be discriminated against only because they've been on mat leave. So, and that was what was happening. And if you really read into it, it really goes against kind of human rights. Like, I mean, you're saying an Alberta human rights and their employment standards actually said that when somebody comes back from work, they have to be in the same benefits and same position and everything as when they went off on mat leave. But that wasn't happening. The insurance companies were saying, no, we're treating like a new hire. We're going to reset the pre-existing condition clause on disability. We may invoke the waiting period again, but we may waive it. And that created this problem of if a woman had been off on mat leave and maybe had postpartum depression or something and seen her doctor about it, gets back to work and then has a disability due to mental health or depression, that pre-existing condition might mean they don't get any benefits, and only because they were off on mat leave. So we fixed it. We basically went out to everybody and we said, we want you to get in alignment with the right thing for the employee, which also protects the employer, which also helps protect me and looks good on the media. And so some of them said, great, we'll do it right away, which surprised me. And most of them kind of said, no, we're okay the way we are. So we just started kind of a bit of a shaming campaign, and we started highlighting every time somebody got in alignment and saying what a great job, and working for employers and working for employees and pregnant women everywhere, or whatever. And we did a few seminars where we shared the results as we went through the process. And eventually, kind of the insurers one by one have fallen into line and kind of gone, okay, yeah, we're changing our policy procedures or administrative practices. So we're pretty good. I think we're about 93% of the market is aligned, and a few are going to announce in the coming months that they are doing the same thing as well.
So is that in Ontario or is that Canada-wide, that 90%?
So that's Canada-wide.
Oh,
so
excellent.
Yeah. And so we still have some, I won't name them because they're going in the right direction. It just takes a little bit more administratively, and like some have to change all their contracts. Others just have to change an internal process. So they've all got kind of different challenges to doing it. But that was just one. We've had other ones. I mentioned the Trillium program and kind of how that was messed up. We haven't solved that one yet. We got some political problems stop that. So one of my great failures probably in the battles I fought. But we also had LTD coverage around moving people that have been previously declined up to new levels, which protects employees and employers quite a bit. We had G19 with the commission disclosure that was being driven not by regulators, but by the insurers. And we kind of put a stop to that very quickly. So we've had lots of good wins that I think have taken the industry to a better level and protected really the plan sponsors, the employers, and their employees. That's the goal, is always them first.
And, that's one of the great things about associations too, is that when you have that combined manpower and brain power, you can make effective change in this. It's a whole lot easier than just one person trying to do something on their own.
It's funny you bring that up, and you and I hadn't talked about this before, but CGIB, the association, is educational. It's not an advocacy group.
Yeah.
And I learned a long time ago that I don't represent the thoughts, desires, needs, or whatever of the average broker. The fact that I'm a benefits specialist kind of makes me a little bit different than some that are generalists.
Yeah.
So all these projects are mine. So and that's not a, hey, I'm a hero, this is all on me. It's, I don't want to take anyone else down with me when I have these fights. So I mean, when you battle insurance companies, every now and then, like, things don't go the way you want, right? So we share the information with CGIB members so that they're aware. So on the website you can, and it's public, so anyone can see all the different projects I've done. And there's kind of like a fine print at the bottom that says, this is just me, I don't represent anybody else's needs, opinions or anything like that. Kind of like you probably have before podcasts, right? Like this is us just talking. But I find that one person can make a huge difference. And the fact that I have CGIB as an educational thing, even though it's not advocacy, I do think the insurers and the CLHIA, the Health Insurers Association, kind of go, okay, if Dave's talking to us, 300 people are going to probably be hearing about this conversation later. So we probably better listen. Even though I don't represent them, we know that it's going to kind of trickle back. So so it's
good for you. I had assumed
good for my clients. Good for my clients. They're the ones and everybody else's too, right? Like, I mean,
it takes a lot of energy to prepare and go up against some of these policies and processes, because sometimes it's not even policies, it's just processes, like you said, that have been in place because it's the way it's always been done. To go up against them and get somebody to really look at it and think about it and change it, that's really impressive.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think it's just kind of what we need to do. Like, I mean, if we all should be improving our industry or our place or our clients or whatever. I don't think there's any difference. And I've just learned from other people ahead of me that have done the same. Like, I mean, it's not just me. There's lots doing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We need more people like you.
Yeah.
So another thing that you talk about in your chapter is you talk about the importance of outsourcing tasks that others are experts in and you weren't. And this is an important thought process, as I feel some listening or watching might think that for some of these things, it's just another expense. But one of the things at Customplan that they feel very strongly about is sharing expertise. And when you bring in an expertise, it benefits everyone. But what are some of the advantages you see to collaborating with an expert?
Yeah, so there's kind of a couple different ways to look at this, whether we're talking maybe professionally or practice-wise. And so if it's professional, if I'm in and I'm talking to somebody about their employee benefits plan, and they say, hey, we need a simple buy-sell agreement between the two partners for $1 million, 20-year term should do it. We valued everything. We just sell us that. Most people are tempted to go, hey, there's an easy sale of $1 million life insurance policy to two people. I won't do it. I refer it all off. And the reason is I'm licensed to sell life insurance. I could do it, but I don't think I'm going to be the expert at doing it. So I might just say, okay, fine, I'll sell you the policy if I did it, which I don't. But whereas it should be like, no, let's see your buy-sell agreement. Let's see how your company is structured. Let's look at this better. Maybe $1 million isn't enough. Maybe it's too much. Maybe there's a better way of doing this. Maybe there's holding companies involved. And we want to make sure that the distribution of funds to redeem shares is going to be done the right way. That's a world I don't live in. There's other people that do nothing but that. So from kind of running a practice, running a professional practice, going to the other experts that do all the other stuff, individual benefits, travel, so out of country, inpatriate, expatriate, all those type of things, I refer to other people. And I have one page on my corporate website that it's just called the need help page. And it's just got everybody that does everything that I don't do. So they're people I refer clients to all the time. I don't get a referral fee. I don't split commissions. If I'm lucky, they'll buy me a beer or a coffee or something. But during COVID, that hasn't even happened. So, but it's people that I get good feedback from.
Good.
On the other side of things, so running a practice management, outsourcing is just effective use of your time. So long ago, I did everything myself. So I do my web design, I did my bookkeeping, I do, you name it, I do it. And to me, that was a great way to learn about all the different stuff and save a little bit of money at the very beginning. So I'd sit up many nights doing web programming until 3 or 4 in the morning to, launch a new website or whatever. But along the way, I went, okay, enough. I'm not getting paid enough. And there's other people that are more effective and more efficient at doing it. So I started outsourcing, and it was kind of reaching out for a little job here, a little job there. I have a bookkeeper that I hired when I started CGIB, and they're just in half a day every other week. And they just kind of keep myself together, and they bill at a cost dramatically less than what I bill, because they're really efficient, really effective, get it all done fast, where I'm, used to always struggle a little bit. Yeah, exactly. And distracted easily and stuff. So that part as well, outsourcing websites and outsourcing technology and things like that just makes sense. There's some stuff you can do yourself, but I find that the little bit that you spend pays back in giving you more time to concentrate on your core business. My core business is not designing websites.
No. And I think a lot of people don't talk about that or don't look at that option as enough, that there are people out there with those skills that can do it a little bit better.
Yeah. And I think in the end, maybe going back to the professional side, I think it helps client retention too. If they know that you're not going to guess or fake it, but you're going to refer them to another specialist, I think people value that. Like I think about lots of times in different areas where the people I really respect, I've gone to them saying, I need you to fix my car or fix my boat or give me advice or do my financial planning or whatever it is. And if they say, you know what, I can do this part, but I'm going to refer you off to an expert in the other thing, that means everything to me. Yep. That means you know your limits. Even if this may be something you can sell, but somebody else can do better, you're looking out for me, and I'm always going to remember that. And those referrals and everything else just make life easier, and it pays back to everybody in the circle.
Oh, and that's right. Again, it goes down to sharing, and that kind of leads us into the next question. Throughout your book, you mentioned a few times about the advantages of specializing. And so why do you feel it's so important to be a specialist instead of a generalist?
Well, I guess it's the easiest is to tell a story or maybe give an analogy. How would you feel about your general family practitioner doing brain surgery on you tomorrow? Let them give it a shot. I mean, they've never done it before, but what can go wrong, right?
Right.
And I mean, and that seems silly. Yeah, exactly. That seems silly, but I mean, I think that's what happens in our industry. If you were charged with murder today, you would not go to that real estate agent who helped you with your closing of your house, or the person who helped you in your divorce, or helped you write a will. No, you're going to try and find the best criminal defense attorney that there is. So Eddie Greenspan, or I don't know, somebody who is, it's going to cost a fortune, but you're going to win because you didn't kill somebody. In our business, there seems to be this kind of high expectation that everybody's going to be a generalist, that you're going to know everything. And I'm not smart enough to know it all. So, I mean, all I'm smart enough to know is just a little part of the whole financial services industry called group insurance. So I can be really good at one thing and have all these other people in the other areas. And I do nothing but benefits. You want to know anything about benefits? Until the other day when I got stumped on that thing for 25 years. But apart from that, I know most of it. And if I don't know it, in 5 minutes, I can get an answer from somebody in my network.
That's right.
So I think just you're doing your clients a disservice if you're being a generalist. And in the old days, I get it. if you lived in northern Newfoundland, you had to be a generalist because there wasn't enough business. There wasn't enough potential clients in the whole province to kind of keep you alive. But now, except for licensing boundaries by province, you can be anywhere. COVID taught us that. I mean, I've serviced my clients while sitting anchored in a boat 200 yards offshore in Turkey in a little tiny town. And, I'm talking on Skype at the time. Now I'd probably use Zoom or something else, or FaceTime. But at the time it was Skype. And I'm having a conversation and sharing files with a client. And the client at the time said, "Hey, would you mind dropping in tomorrow morning? And we can just kind of get that paperwork signed." And I said, "Well, actually, right now I'm floating 200 yards off the coast of Turkey on a sailboat anchored using the Wi-Fi from the the Taverna, where I had lunch and got their Wi-Fi code. And so I can't be there tomorrow, but we can do it all electronically." And they're just like, they're blown away. They're like, "Well, why are you calling me if you're on vacation?" Because I'm working. I mean, I may be anywhere in the world, but I'm still working. And by, helping clients, being specialized wherever you're working from, it's much easier way to kind of focus everything you do.
Yeah. And I like your point too, that, there's just so much to know. It's a lot easier to know one small part of the business really well, and be considered an expert or a resource in that area.
Yeah. And the interesting part is, and I mean, this is not the reason you do it, but this is one of the side benefits, you get paid more. Like generally, if you're a specialist, you're getting asked to do specialist work, not grunt work, not the stuff everybody else does. So whether you're doing fee-for-service consulting or whatever, you get paid. I get paid to speak across the country. I get paid to do workshops and stuff with the association and with others. And that doesn't go out to all the generalists. They just don't get the opportunity because people want people that are specialists. So it creates all these other opportunities for you as well.
And, once again, keeping on that last theme, or in that theme, in your last chapter, you give yet another great why for specializing. And it's important that a financial advisor establish themselves as a partner in their relationship with the client versus being an order taker. And sometimes an advisor's best advice is to say no. And we talked about that before. But can you give us some examples of what kinds of situations might bring this about?
Yeah. So the order taker versus advisor partner is kind of a big thing I spend a lot of time on. If a client, for example, says, "I want you to shop my plan," that means our relationship is over. Mm-hmm. And nobody else in our business would assume that should be that's just an order they gave you, you follow it. And my thing is, if I delivered you a renewal that I believe in, that is fair, that meets all the criteria for what we've kind of established for how our relationship's going to work and what's reasonable, then that's the renewal. And if you tell me to shop it, it means you think that there's a better solution out there that I'm not bringing to the table. You think you know more about the benefits than I do. I'm now out. You don't need me anymore. If you know when to shop and when not to shop and you know how to do it, you don't need me. And when you have that conversation with a client, it's really an eye opener for them. Like, I mean, I don't come in and tell you how to run your business. I may make some suggestions along the way, but I'm not telling you how to, make widgets. Don't tell me how to do mine. If you don't like what I'm telling you, then we go our separate ways. When you start to drive my boat, we have a problem. Yeah. Unless it's my sailboat, but but I really think that we have to be a partner and we have to be agreed. And if we're not aligned and on the same page, then the whole relationship starts to fall apart. So some examples of kind of where that happens, like, we talked about mandatory participation, and, I've got clients that have said, or prospects that have said, "Look, we've done it this way forever. We have independent contractors on our plan. We have ineligible employees. We have shareholders that aren't employees." And I just go, "You're not meeting any of the rules of your contract. So if we're not going to work together, I'm not going to help you break the law, even if it's contract law. It's not criminal law or anything like that." Yeah. And that usually kind of gets people together kind of on the same wavelength a little bit more. Independent contractors we haven't talked about, but a lot of employers have these people that are billing for their time and their services, and they put them on there employee benefit plan. So when you do that, you're making a statement. You're saying, and you say this by enrolling them, this is a full-time permanent employee working over 25 hours a week. Well, that person's not a full-time employee. They intentionally created a corporation to be arm's length and not do that. So you just are trying to have your cake and eat it too. And I just go, look, here's what the problem is. You can be held responsible for up to 7 years of back taxes, withholdings, and everything else if this person is deemed an employee. That's a big problem. The second big problem is the employee, now their employee, they can lose up to the past 7 years of all their write-offs. So they could end up with a multi-hundreds of thousands of dollars of tax bill and penalties and everything because they were, deemed an employee. And even worse, there's a thing in Canada called a personal service business, which is a designation for a small company. It doesn't have to be just one person. It could be up to 5, where they get predominantly employed by one company, most of their income, control, all these things. And if you have that finding by CRA, so they say, okay, we'll say you're not really an employee. We're going to just label you a personal service business. You go to the highest marginal tax rate in Canada, and there are no write-offs other than salaries and benefits. You can't write off offices, cars, depreciation, anything else. And that is really hard to get out of because you got to go and be employed again to get out. So you got to kind of go into standard employment, which most self-employed people would never want to do.
That's
so
right.
Personal service businesses are kind of the danger, and they've shown up in like the oil and gas industry out in Alberta. They show up in the software sector, Ottawa, Markham, Toronto, and to some degree, it's hit areas like fast food and Uber and journalists and publishing companies and stuff that use freelance people and put them on plans, things like that. So it's a kind of a recurrent problem. So there's lots of situations where you kind of go, are we on the same page? Are we going to work to the same contract? Are we going to work to the same goal? Let's be aligned. And so being a specialist, being aligned with your clients is everything.
Yeah.
I haven't used the analogy yet, but I use it all the time. My client relationships are relationships, and I kind of put it like dating. Like, I don't want a one-night stand. I don't want a summer romance. I want a wife for life or a partner for life. And I'm looking for the same thing with clients. If they say, look, we'll give you a shot for a year, thanks, I'm out. I want you for 20. Like, I mean, you might not be in business 20 years. We might fall apart. You might sell, whatever. But if you're looking at this as a 1-year term to work with me, it's not worth the time. The amount of work you put into it, we're not aligned. I'm looking long-term. You're looking short-term. Let's just walk away and avoid the hassle right from the start. And that, a lot of people will hear that and go, oh, you just, wrote off another client. Oh, you just wrote off another client. Yeah, 100%. That's the line. In reality, what you find is those are disturbing conversations, and they disturb how people used to do things. So when you say, I'm sorry, I can't work with you, the first thing the person on the other side of the table says is, whoa, wait, you're going to walk away from me? You're a commission-based salesperson, whether they know I'm commission or not, but you're walking away from a sale? Why? Because it's not worth it to me. I don't want to have to be in a position where I have to testify against you somewhere down the road to say, hey, I explained this to you and you broke the rules anyway, or whatever. And I think that, again, that aligned long-term relationship is huge. And I'll joke around with it about prospective clients and say, like, I'm not here as a one-night stand. I want to be in here for a long time. And it works. I think it works pretty good. It solves a lot of problems. And if you think I'm giving away business, no, I'm giving away problems. If the client is interested in the conversation and wants to talk about it more, now I'm getting an educated, aligned client that is not going to be a problem. And quite often what you find is there's a bunch of other trickle down positives. So for example, we talked about mandatory participation in plans. If you had a plan that you were being asked to talk to and they have 75% participation and you explain all the problems of why it should be 100 and they agree and you fix it, well, you just took the premium from 75 employees of premium to 100. You just took up your potential earnings, your potential commissions, as well as all the other things we talked about. So to me, we're not giving away business. we're trying to filter out the best business for both of us. It's not just me, it's not just greedy, it's not money, it's being aligned and working with clients that want to be protected and work with you and see the value of what we do.
Right. And, that's just one of many great tips in your book, Selling Benefits. So, I enjoyed it, and I'm not really an insurance person. I talk to all of you insurance experts and I enjoy it, but I got a lot out of it. It was good for me.
It's made in like nice bite-sized chunks, and we throw in some vacation stories and analogies and stuff. And the goal was to make it more about relationships. And I had one person who read it and they said, I don't know anything about insurance, but I think you just set out my whole dating schedule of how it's going to work. And I'm like, you know what? Lots of the stuff kind of aligns. You're right. So whether you're an employee, an employer, it's relationships are relationships, right? So cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. And this has been an extraordinary conversation. It was so great to speak with you, Dave.
Likewise. Thank you for having me.
And do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to leave our followers with?
Listen to more things like this. Bottom line is education is huge. If you're not learning, you're dying. So keep learning. Sharing is caring. Keep sharing, mentoring, helping, join associations, join study groups, join like-minded people, whether it's in mentoring, formal relationships or not. You do those few things and you will be a leader in your industry before you know it. And it doesn't take 25 years. It really is surprising how quickly you kind of leapfrog over other people, and not putting anybody down, but when you kind of get into those mindsets and you really focus, it's so much faster, so much easier to have an effect on the industry.
Absolutely. Like we said, this was a great book for anyone looking at the group insurance field. It was so good of you to come out and chat with us today. We really appreciate it. Can you tell us one more time, how can people get a hold of you and this book?
Okay, so the book, you can buy any place good books are sold online these days. So you can go to sellingbenefits.ca and all the links are there. So you can get it through amazon.ca.com and .uk. You can get it through get Kindle downloads. I did an Audible version, so over Christmas I recorded and narrated the whole thing, which was a great learning experience for me. And Friesen Press, my publisher, you can get copies there. So depending on where you're located, shipping and different deals are all different. And if anybody wants big orders of books, I've still got 300 or 400 left. So there's discounted pricing on the website and stuff as well. Mainstayinsurance.ca is my corporate website. CGIB, which stands for Canadian Group Insurance Brokers.ca, CGIB.ca is the association website, and my numbers are all over there. Or if it's okay, people can reach out to you to reach out to me as well. And always love to talk to people about benefits or sailing or publishing books, whatever you're into.
And all of that contact information will be on the website when this is published. So thank you again for sharing all of this information with us today.
Thank you.
And thank you to Customplan Financial Advisors for sponsoring this program. They are an award-winning managing general agency providing fantastic resources to the independent financial advisor. Look at what they offer at customplanfinancial.com. And this podcast is now on YouTube and Spotify, as well as financialpodcast.ca. Sign up or subscribe to be notified of every new podcast. And if you have an idea for a podcast or know of someone that would make a great guest, please send an email to contact@financialpodcast.ca. We'd love to have your feedback. And thank you again, Dave, for coming on this show.
Thank you very much for having me, and have a great day.
You too. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
The views expressed here are those of the participants and not those of Customplan Financial Advisors, Inc., its affiliates, or subsidiaries. This is not intended to serve as a complete analysis of every material fact regarding any company, industry, or security. This presentation may contain forward-looking statements. Investors are cautioned not to place undue reliance on such statements, as actual results could vary. This site and podcasts are for general information purposes only and does not constitute investment advice and is not intended as an endorsement of any specific investment product or service. Individual investors should consult with an investment professional about their personal situation. Past performance is not indicative of future results. If you are unsure about what is the best course of action for you in your financial planning, then we suggest you consult a fee-based independent financial advisor or get in touch with us to discuss your individual situation. Our phone number is 604-687-7773.